Hi, hello everybody, and welcome to the Type Directors Club virtual salon. My name is Carrie Hamilton, and I'm here with Adrian Wilson. He's going to share some of his exploits around New York City with us. Just before we got started, I want to remind everybody that our upcoming conference, Type Drives Communities, is on May 7th and 8th, the first weekend in May, 2 half days. And early bird tickets are on sale now. We'll be posting, and there it is. Okay, comes up magically. So the link has just been shared in the chat. Early bird tickets are on sale now through the 12th, and then they go up to normal prices. So get yours in soon. And now I'm going to introduce Adrian Wilson, and he can take it away from here.
Hi, everyone. So, yeah, I'm Adrian Wilson, born in Manchester years ago, 56 years ago. So I kind of wanted to talk you through how I've tried to avoid graphics my whole life and failed miserably, but actually done cool things because of that. So I'd like to talk you through a PDF, a PDF to show you the kind of things that have inspired me and also what I've done. So, can you see the screen, everybody?
There we are.
There you go. Can you see that?
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
So, there's my head. That was actually on a bus on Route 3 back to New Jersey, and there's a guy in front of me who's just asleep with his head on the window. And just because of the reflections, you could see yeah, all the traffic just in his head and the street sign and stuff. And I guess that's what we're all alike, really, especially as graphic designers. We have this programming in our head about things that other people don't necessarily see. So I thought that was a perfect slide to start with. So my graphic designer there, he was one of the first people to set up a commercial graphic design studio in Manchester, in England. You can see it was the 25th anniversary in 1975. Before then, there were just people that worked at companies, but he was pretty well known. And here he is. He did one of the first corporate identities in Britain, which was for the equivalent of Greyhound bus. So here he is working on some of the signage for National Bus, it became. And then here's me on the left there with my sister next to me and my two older brothers, Stuart and Simon. So basically, I had a father and two older brothers who were all graphic designers, which you can imagine. I mean, look at my face. Like, uh-oh, what do I do to try and, get out of their shadow? So I went to college to be a photographer. I thought, it's much more interesting at the time than smelling cow gum and letraset and being at a drawing board. And while I was at college, there was a thing called the Quantel Paint Box, which was the first real-time graphic TV graphics computer. So of course, trying to avoid graphics, I ended up being one of the first artists photographers to work on this Quantel Paint Box. End up writing for computer graphics magazines. That's 1987, before JPEGs and the internet, I should say. There's me doing a meme of myself. So even then, this is 1987, as a 23-year-old, you can see I was already pre-programmed. I became a photographer, been a photographer for 35 years. But even the photography I take, obviously we all know that's the TWA Center. You can see that I shot for Apple. You can see I shoot in a graphic way. That's the theater at West 4, the IFC Center. So I shoot I'm basically a graphic designer, but the way it manifests itself is in photography. I also, because I was in Manchester, ended up saving this big collection of typography and graphics that were all stamped on fabric that went around the world. So I ended up being a speaker at TypeCon because, of course, I'm not a graphic designer. And even just playing around with these types, why not just stamp them all over your body? And then basically was doing graffiti as well. Again, typography. Here's me being an idiot, with a ladder on top of a van, painting an anti-Amazon logo, which is still there. It's on Ludlow Street. So what I also wanted to point out was a sense of humor. I mean, you do puns here. Obviously, this is Studio 5'4" in Mobile, Alabama. Obviously, they didn't want to get sued by Studio 54. I mean, that's intentionally funny. But there's so many unintentionally funny things. I can't show this video, but this is me scratching using one of those street sweepers. This is a divorce lawyers in Newark called Love and Long. I mean, they have to be divorce lawyers, really. This is in Jersey City, which I love, 99 cents dreams, but it's also 59 cents and 79 cents. Every item, 99 cents or less, and then just in case, 99 cents up and less, which basically $1 million is 99 cents up and less. So I love just seeing the humor that's around unintentionally. I did a shoot in Vancouver. This is the porn store, Canada's oldest adult store. I mean, is that a way to attract you to a porn store? Oh, plus cleaner wanted. So I just find these things funny. You know, the Isle of Capri motel in Wildwood, and that couple just sat there, you know, burning themselves and the looks on their faces. So there's humor all around. This is in New York, the Vermeer service entrance. I just find this stuff funny. There, everyone knows that picture, right? Everybody. And I'm gonna annoy you now because you're gonna see that picture and remind and think of this forever. But everyone talks about the fifth Beatle. But if you look next to George Harrison, there's the fifth Beatle parked. So I just find this stuff funny, and it's the way my brain is programmed to see things on the street or whatever. As a graphic designer, I read that as Sol Bass. I mean, you know, it's just funny. Now, obviously, this stuff is just in your own head, and, you know, it's kind of funny to see it, and you think, okay, well, you might share it with some graphic design friends. I mean, how many acronyms can you get on one street sign? You know, DR, MLK, JR, BL, VD. I mean, it's to me, that's funny. Other graphic designers, it's funny. So even graffiti is funny. I'm pretty sure he wanted to write fuck New World Order, but it reads as fuck New Order World, which I'm sorry, the band aren't going to be too happy about that one. These are actually around New York City now. You know, they try to be inclusive for female workers, but men and woman at work, you know, they can't even freaking spell women. So these are the things that just make me laugh. Now, obviously, I don't have to add much. Obviously, I added VR in front of exit there to make it even more funny. I used to go around with these old picture frames that I'd found and take out the picture and just use your imagination. So I would hang these up around the city. This is one of my favorite. This is an old church in England. It's like a lawyer's office or something now. And on the left, you can see it says erected 1779, enlarged 1799, and there was an empty panel. So, of course, I had to write that. And this doesn't seem funny until you point out, look, it's niche graphics. So anyway, having all that, you know, coming from a family or whatever, we do puns. My brother had visited just after David Bowie died, and we were walking around, and actually we were going down Bowery, and he said, oh, they should rename this David Bowery. And then went back to England. And me still trying to impress my older brother or whatever, I thought, right, okay. And there's a 26-inch snowstorm, and I had a pair of old banana-shaped ladders in the backyard. So I roped in a couple of friends, and we dragged this ladder all the way from Ludlow Street to Bowery. And you can see, look how bendy that is. Put it up. Now what I'm doing here, if you see, I'm painting on the back of the sign. So if you're actually driving down Bowery at Houston, you're not going to read that. It's not going to send you in the wrong way. So do try and be considerate. And I got a coffee pot and tied it onto a piece of string, and then climbed up and just hand painted David Bowery. So there you go, as me with my coffee pot. So it's just funny to do it. To me, it was just funny. I mean, it is vandalism technically, but it's just funny. Now, what I didn't realize, because this really was the first one, it was up for about 2 months. It just went completely viral. My daughter said, "Dad, you're number one on Facebook. You're top trending." And I don't use Facebook. And I was like, "What does that mean?" And she said, "You're above the sloth," which there you go. My daughter thought I was above the sloth. And I'm like, well, I thought I was above the sloth anyway, but I guess I was, number one on Facebook. Now, it was all done anonymously. So it was great to sort of see the reaction and just enjoy it from a distance. I did this a year later, just clamping a couple of pieces of cardboard together and doing it on the brown signs that are on the actual Bowery. Then it was picked up for the David Bowie's actual show at Brooklyn Museum. It was used as like the centerpiece for their show, where they did a whole makeover of the subway, which is just like, I mean, it's just unbelievable. Obviously, David Bowie is like a hero and everyone loved him. But yes, so to have that sign made into a 14-foot version to promote his show was amazing. And then obviously he wasn't around anymore, but David Bowie's account posting it, it's just like an incredible satisfaction. And you realized all these people got a lot of pleasure from seeing a different way to give a tribute to somebody. Obviously, there were all the flowers and the candles outside his apartment, and people drew murals and stuff. But it seemed like more of a fun way to kind of, and it obviously was only 2 blocks away from where he lived on Lafayette. So it's kind of a fun way to do a tribute. So I think I saw the value of doing that just as a nice thing. I was arrested in between doing Bowie and the other one, so I had to be a bit more careful. So it was coming up for St. Patrick's Day. So I had this really convoluted way of doing a makeover for B-52s. So I bought this kind of this onesie thing, and I dyed it green, and I put all Irish names on it. And then I have a painter's pole that goes 24 feet high. So I put Dublin Street on one side and walked around, which obviously I'm hiding my face. Everyone just thinks I'm a drunken Irish St. Patrick's Day reveler. And I and on the back, you can see I gently tacked B-52 on some transparent material and then put spray glue on it and stood under the sign, which was flapping around because they're not stable, and slapped this thing on and was hitting it with the Dublin Street sign to make it stick. So there you go. It worked, but God, that was convoluted. But I don't think I've ever laughed so much doing a piece of graffiti as I did when I did that one. So the next one was, I did have an idea anyway, which I'll show you later on, but Aretha Franklin, there was news that basically she was in a hospice and, imminently was likely to pass away. So I rushed down to Franklin Street subway station. And this is the thing, you have to go and measure. I was like, okay, I'm going to measure the steps, look at the signage, look at the inside with the tiles. Now, by this point, I hadn't really done a lot of things. I mean, I've done actually, I've missed off this, but I've done Prince RIP as well. But I was like, okay, well, that's it. I can use Photoshop, my Photoshop skills that I use for photography to mock it up. And then basically I got some sticky paper, just sprayed it yellow, and then went to Michael's and just got some sticky on letters, because that's how cheap I am, $6, and cut these out and then basically stuck them on the stair risers. And really, she hadn't passed at the time, so it was like, say a little prayer for her, etc. I thought it was a nice thing to do. Hopefully she got something out of this. Now, this is interesting to me. What you learn is from the internet and memes, etc., and just about communication, is how subtlety doesn't really work in the modern age. This is one of my favorite things that I've ever done. So Aretha Franklin had done a duet with George Michael, who'd obviously already passed, and it was a subway platform. So I Knew You Were Waiting, to me, seemed like the perfect tribute. You know, George Michael supposedly is waiting in heaven, etc. And so I put that up. I was so happy with that. It was like, it still is one of my favorite pieces of graffiti. But everyone knows respect, right? RESPECT. So I did that, and actually it became a permanent tribute, and it's still there now. I mean, you can still go and see it. So that's back from 2008. So it's coming up for 3 years. So that's really, really nice, you know, to know that not only you give a lot of people a lot of pleasure because obviously it's shared, etc., but it becomes a permanent thing, which actually, if you see respect now, it's much about respecting other cultures, etc. It's not even, it's transcended being about Aretha, which is fantastic. There's a shot I took of it. Somebody even in Germany renamed, it looks like Photoshop to me. It's a bit suspicious, but it may be real. But I think it's pretty funny, Aretha Franklin Strasse. So the reach of the internet is great, that it's inspired other people to do something. When Kobe Bryant died, I was actually away, and another New York graffiti artist, Trice Cat, did Kobe Bryant Park, which is, you know, again, genius, and everyone just loved it. I mean, it's, again, used tape, so it's nothing permanent. Now, what was interesting was, obviously, Bruce Springsteen, Spring Street, I changed to Bruce Springsteen and wrote in chalk the boss below it, just so it kind of stand out more, really. I got so many messages saying, has he died? Because I'd suddenly become this person that, you know, whether it was Prince or whoever, I did a tribute to somebody who died. So I suddenly realized I might be the voodoo graffiti person that if I put somebody's name up. And of course, there was lots of trolling on the website that went on saying, hey, he's New Jersey anyway, you shouldn't give him a tribute in New York. So actually, yeah, this was the idea. I'd always seen this create this idea of see something and say something. And I thought it was kind of cool to say, create something. You know, we're in New York, we all should not be, you know, just observing and posting pictures of things, but we actually should be creating something that other people might want to post. So I did this campaign, you know, whatever you want to call it, but basically I just added these strips, the same way as before, really, to the risers below those. Oh, this is out of order, sorry. I did that one into Manhattan and My Underground Life. So this one, I've been arrested a couple of times. It's annoying when you get arrested for the bad things. I mean, this is Broome and Essex Street, and I was with some friends, and it was like I had a kind of green paint, and there was like 3 people spotting for me, which is, you know, your lookouts, and there just happened to be somebody in a parked car opposite who called the cops. And the cops, they have a graffiti squad. So I was waiting, actually, I had my New York Graffiti Department t-shirt on, and obviously had my excuse, drunk, I never did this before in my life. And they were like, Adrian, we Googled you, we know exactly who you are. So I was like, well, it's not Scooby-Doo, you don't just admit it, you know. Anyway, I had to go to this kind of therapy session for graffiti artists to get my conviction waived, which was fine. But yeah, I mean, it's totally childish. I mean, some of these things are what you would do if you were a teenager, like bro sex, obviously. People at college climb up buildings and write silly things and put mustaches on the principal's face on a picture or something. This isn't too far removed. It really doesn't take much skill, as you can see. A bit of sticky thing and some lettering from Michael's. You know, it doesn't cost anything, really. Amazon, if you remember, they were going to do their headquarters in Queens, so I did this campaign on the subway on the 7 train. Graffiti, believe it or not, started, it was kind of in Philly and the Bronx at the same time, but Tacky 183. So I just added, which is very rare that I actually write on something. But yeah, I thought it was cool that, you know, Uptown and the Bronx is where graffiti began in 1968. And then, yeah, just having fun with celebrities, really. I mean, some of these things take off. What I realized is if they haven't died, people don't really care. So this was hanging up for about 3 or 4 weeks. I just thought it was funny. I think at the time, Kanye had gone to see Trump, and everyone who went to see Trump at the time got some kind of deal out of them. And I thought, okay, well, Kanye might get the West Side Highway renamed in his honor. This is Lily Allen Street. Again, she's famous in Britain, but most people not even heard of her. This was for Gay Pride weekend. I used chalk and just changed the cyclist things. So to me, street art is all sorts of different things. It's not just the writing on a wall. I try and use all the parts of the street. So you saw that on the flyer. This is a good example of, as a photographer, because I've got kind of visual training, this image isn't as strong as this, because there's one motorcycle there as if Han Solo just arrived on it. Whereas there's, it's not just his motorcycles, there's a load of them. So I'm lucky that I think I've got, pun skills, photography skills, graphic design skills, and I'm kind of, in my late 50s. So nobody really suspects me either. I know people were complaining about all the pizza plates that people threw on the floor. So I made a giant Scrabble board and made them into Scrabble letters. And Orchard Street would close every Sunday. So I did a giant Scrabble board and gave prizes away for people coming up with letters. This is, my mum always laughs every time I go and visit. It's like, what are you going to do next? But obviously, hump for 350 yards. This was an example of how things can change again. I just thought those stay in lane signs that you see on the floor, we're all a bit crazy in New York. So I thought stay insane was quite a good change to that. So I actually, when the lockdown came, I changed it to stay in and sane. I actually ordered an aluminum sign and touched it up. And I mean, that guy's face. And this is me with my construction outfit. When you go, you kind of dress, sometimes you do something in a suit, sometimes you do it with a construction helmet. You try and fit in to what you're doing so that people passing by don't get it. And then, basically just left it bolted up there. I think somebody stole it for a couple of days. But I put it around different places before then. Obviously, there's things, again, comedy on the street. Post no bills. I find the whole post no bills thing really interesting because people don't call, the posters, etc., bills anymore. But everyone knows what post no bills means. But posting now, if you post something, it means you're putting something online, whereas in the old days, it's putting something on a wall. So yeah, the oxymoron of posting no bills, but using a bill to say that. This is another favorite of mine, where I thought it'd be kind of funny to do a dialogue. So the post no bills was there. I added stays who in graffiti and then added me at the same time, as if the construction worker was talking to the graffiti person, because obviously they always have to paint over them in the green. And then the construction people painted out the says who bit, but left the me bit. So to me, I think that it's like, I don't know, maybe it's my own sort of humor, and that would never get like 1 million likes or whatever. But that's just, to me, like the magic of like the dialogue of graphics on the street. I use the same thing at the beginning, like March or April, to obviously promote the idea of spread no virus. And that was picked up by The Guardian. And, so again, you feel like, okay, if you're doing something to benefit, I'm not just putting my name up. You notice nothing so far is signed. Why would I put my name next to Aretha Franklin tribute? Because it's about Aretha, it's not about me. So yeah, there's me with my construction outfit. So of course, NFTs are the big thing. So, I added post note NFTS. The cool thing is, there's one on Prince Street. I went to photograph how they were a couple of weeks later. And the Irish 65-year-old super came out. He didn't know why I was shooting it. And he said, what's an NFTS? And I told him what it was. I didn't say it was me. And he said, oh, because I thought, I didn't know what it was, but I love it. So I touched it up around it because there was overspray. Whoever did it's a bit of an amateur. So I touched it up, which again, like some random super who has no idea about NFTs or art, but he kind of liked the idea of what I did or what somebody did. Again, this kind of dialogue is to me great. And just the texture, etc. There's so much art on the street that people don't notice. So seeing how that blends in with the texture. And then here, the workers, somebody had painted graffiti on, so they painted over the graffiti, but carefully left where the post no NFTSs were, because they didn't know what it was, but it looked official. I did about 50, 60 of those around the city, and I thought, well, I might as well make an NFT out of them. So actually, that's the first and only NFT I've ever sold. Somebody bought it as an NFT, which, just talk about a loop. So yeah, all of that was done anonymously, which was great because, I'm a white English guy. So if I do a tribute to Aretha, it doesn't matter, this whole thing that you can't make any comment or anything on a culture that isn't yours anymore, drives me nuts. I always point out that the Egyptian department of the Met isn't run by Egyptians. It's run by white people, and everyone still loves it. So this was when I came out. So obviously Ruth had died, and so I did this meme, which I thought was a clever play on words, and obviously there was all the horrible stuff that happened, with the picking a new judge, etc. So I'd done that, but then I was like, well, I really want to do a street art thing, but I wasn't in New York, so I couldn't do it. So there was a guy who had followed me on Instagram, and he was an artist. And basically I said, look, this is my idea. Because what I do is I just go on Google Images, find images of the subway station, and then see how I could change it. Now, the easiest way to do this, if you ever want to work out the best way to do a tribute to somebody, if you go on Wikipedia, you can get a list of all the subway stations and all the street names in Manhattan, etc. And you just see what fits. So again, my DNA programming as a graphic designer works out, 50th, and if I change the O to a U, it's not that hard, and there's the UTS, TH already. So that looks pretty simple to change. So I contacted my friend. He was going to go out for a walk with his wife. He said, hey, you know what? I'm going to do this. He spent 3 hours. He's a real artist, working, doing all this like intricate stuff. He showed me this. We were talking about the colors, whether it was too purple, because we had to kind of, you go off images off the internet. And he went and did it. And also I said, look, get pictures, get video, because this all helps with it going viral. Because by now I've got contacts in media and on, big Instagram accounts, etc. will post things, and they all want original content. So basically he did this, and people were asking me. Now the interesting thing was, I'm sure you won't mind me saying, Matt, he said, oh no, I want it to be anonymous. Firstly, he doesn't want to get in trouble. I don't want him to get in trouble. And again, it went with the whole thing. If it's just about Ruth, really. So we both did it anonymously. And then people are saying, well, it's not really graffiti. It's just, you shouldn't really get arrested for it, etc. It's just Sex in the City chatting with you because they post it. So you end up being contacted by the most random people, and most random people like your stuff. So then basically, who was revered at the time, the governor of New York posts it. So I was said to Matt, I said, you know what, Matt, everyone wants to know how you did it, all this kind of stuff. Because it's not really about me, but it's people want to know, hey, the story behind it. It is interesting to people. So I said, why don't we just come out and do it? So anyway, it was okay, well, it's your idea, etc. Now I have a thing about an idea. An idea is something like being a racehorse owner. So you've got a stallion and a mare together, and you ended up with this amazing racehorse, but you need a trainer to make the racehorse a fast racer, and then you need a jockey to get it over the line first. Now, the idea is the racehorse. Now, I don't really mind if somebody else wants to, take credit or, do the thing. I'd rather the idea happened than it didn't. I wouldn't have been able to do this for at least 4 days. And by that time, the whole, point of it would have passed because, it's long after she passed. So anyway, he's like, no, like you say it's you, whatever. I don't want to get in trouble, etc. And then basically, so I posted it all, and you can see it just went completely nuts, like 380,000 views there. It was on Complex, wherever. It was in every single thing because she was a beloved person, and it was a simple graphic. So people got it straight away. They also think this is New York. This is what New Yorkers do. That when it was my favorite thing with the David Bowie ladders one was somebody who just said, that's how New Yorkers do it. And I think that's what, if you're in New York, you should be showing everyone else in the world, yeah, we're still a bit nuts. We'll still go like off the scale. So anyway, it went everywhere. So we decided to go public, etc. And the funny thing is, his daughter got annoyed because she was like, hey, Adrian's getting all this like stuff, like what you did, like you went and stuck it and took the pictures and everything. He said, yeah, but I didn't want credit. It's Adrian's idea. So anyway, then I was like, look, Matt, just to make your daughter happy, we should, let's just explain it all on TV. So I got him in and he said it was both of us, etc. So really that was me coming out, and by this time, all my older stuff was past 2 years, which is kind of past the time you're going to get arrested, etc. Statute of limitations. So I thought, well, I'll admit it, that it was me. And I even wrote to the MTA and said, hey, look, the MTA is quiet. We could do T-shirts. We could do collaborations. I'd be happy to give you all the money. We could have tributes to different people in different subway stops so people could travel there and take pictures, whatever. And I love their reply. We have followed your work. Of course they have followed my work. But anyway, I love the MTA. So anyway, and these are the things I've done by that time. So I was like, yeah, it's coming up for Christmas. Like, why don't we do T-shirts and bags and stuff? So anyway, I came out, and it's kind of unfortunate coming out because what happens is you get people who are jealous, people are annoyed that you think it's about your ego, even though you haven't put your name on anything. And you get haters who say, hey, what the hell? You're not black, so why could you do a tribute to Whitney Houston? All that kind of stuff. So it's got nice upsides because you can tell the story properly. But the downsides are just like, the modern cultural internet thing are just haters just coming out of the woodwork and just saying whatever you do is just, you're destroying the subway, it's graffiti, you're a child, technically I'm all of those things, but I don't need, thousands of people on my Instagram telling me. Anyway, so some things have always just been Photoshop because to do anything, I would mock it up first. And sometimes the mock-up is just easier. And there's, I'm not going to damage anything. It's cheaper, everything to actually just post the mock-up. So, Lou Reed, I can't change Dwayne to Lou easily. So just post it like that because it's funny. That's Madison Avenue. I'm not going to climb up and do that. James Bond died, Sean Connery. So again, it's just easy enough, and I've got enough technique on Photoshop to make it look semi-realistic. And I'm not going to fly to London's Bond Street and do these things, but it might inspire somebody else to do it. And yeah, I kind of love just the fact that you see something so recognizable, but then you just tweak it a little bit and it changes its meaning and encourages to look at things around them in more detail, including graphics. Yeah, this is apparently a terrible French translation, but obviously it's a play on the Magritte. It's not a pie. So it's meant to say in French, this is not a pipe closet. And again, that's Photoshop. I think I wrote it on a piece of paper and then in Photoshop superimposed it onto the door. I get people who basically say, can you do one for me? My friend Matthew, he was like, so I was like, okay, well, I could do Matt Street, or I could do Matthew Street, and actually his name was Matthew Meyer, so I could do Meyer Street. So people are like, almost like want me to do like, you know, I've become famous for this. So obviously most of you know Louise Philly and Steve Heller, and they've been super supportive in lots of ways to me, including my in-utilities retailer, my store with the old printing blocks. Louise did the logo for it free of charge, etc. So yeah, this was like a funny twofer for them. And then yeah, I was just showing Steve, look, we could do something funny for your wedding anniversary. I can go and make Philly Street or the Philliamsburg Bridge. So, and then the other thing is, this is an idea I've got, which I probably will do. So, you know, watch out, DOT, of getting, like, if you can see there on the crosswalk, there's a certain amount of letters that you can make just by connecting two lines. And again, using the internet is really easy. What you can do is you just write out the alphabet of what letters you can make by just doing that. Obviously, you can't make an S because that's going to be in the middle. You can't make an E, for instance. So then you write down all the letters, and there are websites for people who want to cheat at crosswords and puzzles, where they'll give you an anagram. So basically, you just put all the letters in that anagram website, and it will give you all the words, so you can work out how many lines across and how many letters are used by each letter, and work out what you're going to do. So actually, I kind of want to do a whole sentence around New York that you'll only be able to read from Google Earth. Just because. It just seems like a really nice idea. This, for instance, Van Halen Avenue, I couldn't get there, so I did it in Photoshop. And by this time, I'm so good at making Photoshop look realistic. And it, you know, went on the Van Halen page, you know, thousands and thousands of likes, whatever, when Eddie died. But I got so many haters because it's in East New York, and supposedly, okay, well, it's a black area. And somebody said, well, this is, you know, you're vandalizing and gentrifying. And I'm like, well, which is it? So, and they didn't even know it wasn't even done for real. And I actually thought, well, I'll go back and do it for real. And so went and did all the reference shots to try and do it, and then just ended up photoshopping it again. I couldn't even bother, because I was really only doing it just for the trolls, and just because I felt bad everyone loved it as a Photoshop thing, that I should do it for real. But I've learned as well that people don't really care whether it's real or not. I mean, and these things get ripped down in like 10 minutes sometimes. So I don't think it's tricking somebody to get an idea across when you couldn't do it any other way. So this, for instance, 46 Biden. I did this. Now it says 46th Street. I would have to extend the tiles. It would never look as good. And I'll put clues in there to show that it's fake. So if you see the poster on the right, I did a fake Colgate Nutella flavored toothpaste. And I put that in there to basically show people, look, it's fake. Like, there's a fake poster next to it. Like, if you get it, you get it. And that's your reward for like looking carefully. You know, people would say, well, this is fake. It's like, yeah, and so obviously I put 45th out. You know, Michael Moore reposted it, whatever, all these famous people posting it. Again, it just gives people pleasure. Again, I don't want to go and write on the 5 and have the MTA have to clean it off. This might as well just be a mock-up. Working out whether to do, you know, for the inauguration. Well, I could have, used the B-52 idea and done this, but it's too convoluted, it's too high, you can't see it very well. This sign, which is Times Square, a lot of these signs have been removed now, so that sign isn't even there anymore. And this, you know, Trump links, basically, I couldn't go there. The clubhouse is right next to it, so I couldn't do it. So basically, I showed exactly how it could be done. And then I'm going to speed up a bit. Now, usually take a tape measure. If you haven't got a tape measure, a dollar bill always works. So I went and did Mr. Biden just before he got, and measured up that for the final one. So this is how I do the signs now, basically because Matt taught me how to do it in a proper way. So that's the final thing. Of course, I had to do the meme with him sat there. And then again, Thompson Street, changing that to Trumpscon Street, working out that, okay, that's a better view showing New York than the other side, which could be anywhere, and also has a light behind it. If you see there, I've learned you use the a ladder, the barrier as a ladder to climb up. So that's there. That's still there. That's been there, since 20th of January. And then the final one, which obviously was done a week ago, going to Fulton Street, and obviously using the famous guide and cutting out, doing different methods, spraying the color, drawing it, and doing, me and Matt both did this, and changing it to Fulton Street, just for fun really, and again, it's all stickers. So, there you go, look at that, 49 years and 3,500 miles apart. My dad, who I never wanted to be like as a graphic designer, there's him on the bus, and there's me sticking the 46 Joe on there. And there's my mum, that's where she was born. I'd actually peeled off the old wooden letters when the Salvation Army hospital closed down. I saved the letters for her and made a fake little plaque up there for her. And my request, this is on the L train, it's a cemetery on the L train, which is right next to Wilson Avenue. So when I do pass, I want you all to go and do something appropriate on the Wilson Avenue subway stop. I feel that's my legacy, but and I want to just, how do I go to S here? I want to show one last thing, which is the thing I'm most proud of, which I know I touched on this before, but if you do go to the F stop, to the 123 at Franklin Street, I did something illegal standing in between the cars here to do this, but so look, it ends on a blank wall because that's a blank thing that you can all do this stuff. You could see it took me $6 from Michael's, a simple idea. Nobody cares about the kerning. Nobody cares about all that kind of stuff that designers care about. They cared about the idea and the communication. So yeah, I wanted to quickly flick through that just because you see the ton of stuff I've done. I've admitted all that stuff to the NYPD. So yeah, there we go. You can take me away. But it's all been in fun. It's all been, for other people to enjoy graphics, etc. So questions?
Yes, that was excellent. Thank you, Adrian. Yeah, we have a number of questions here. The first one is that, do you get any copycats? Have you noticed any copycats?
Yeah, and I like copycats.
I figured, yeah.
It's sort of a burden being the person that, like, literally, if somebody dies, everyone's like sending me messages. Like, I don't want to be. I mean, I enjoyed doing the April Fool thing because it was like, it wasn't about something depressing about somebody dying. The inauguration was done. Trump gone wasn't an F Trump. It wasn't like a nasty thing. It said 46 Joe. And actually, if you notice, when I did 46 Joe, I didn't do JOE as caps, which it would have been if you followed the MTA guideline. I made the O and the E lowercase because I felt like we'd all seen all these Trump tweet caps for 4 years. And it was nice to just be a bit more soft. So yeah, I do get copycats, and I want you all to copy me because part of this is showing you how easy it is, showing you, okay, technically it's illegal or whatever, and I expect you all to climb up ladders or whatever. And you can Photoshop it, and it is all still cool to do that. So yeah, basically, I want I want to inspire others. That's the whole point of this, right? That we inspire people to love graphics, accept what you are as well in life, that your brain is programmed a certain way, that puns are silly and childish, but if you put them on the street in New York, it's suddenly art and can be sold as an NFT and make money or whatever, or people respect it. So yeah, there's nothing here. Any of that stuff, anyone could have done. Okay, climbing a ladder is sketchy, but if you go in a gallery and you say, I wish I had the talent to do this, I wish I had the skills to do this, none of my work anyone could look at and say, I wish I knew how to do that.
Right. Well, of course, one also might have to be willing to get arrested, which someone else did want to ask about that. Is it frightening being arrested?
Yeah, actually, well, it's kind of weird because it's just like being in a movie, putting the cuffs on you, pressing your head into the car, whatever. Obviously, I'm lucky because I'm a 56-year-old white guy. So how I get treated, I actually made these great big signs that said "Police do cross line," instead of "Police do not cross line." And I got pulled over by the cops carrying it, thinking it was like a real one, etc. The way I would get pulled over or the way I would get arrested is different. But I mean, the circumstances of got arrested. When I got arrested for doing bro sex, I was with 3 of my friends. The van pulled up on Essex. I could see in the corner of my eyes, the van pulled up. I said to my friends, keep walking forward. I turned into the liquor store and I got arrested in a liquor store in the Lower East Side, which seems totally cool, doesn't it, really? Sorry. And I had to go to this thing where there was all, it was a first offense kind of thing. And there was all these people that had shoplifted and there was homeless people. It was all tragedies, all these tragedies. And there was a guy who was my age who'd got a phone call while he was in Union Square Station, and he didn't have a pen. He couldn't write it down he had to write down a number. So he wrote down on a poster the phone number when somebody was giving it to him, and he was arrested for graffiti for that. I mean, I'm not condoning graffiti or whatever, but there are certain types, and obviously a rule is a rule. But to be arrested because you're writing the tiny phone number in biro on a poster in a thing is obviously ridiculous. Yeah. So it was, as I said in the talk, they know who I am. But also, I think if I'm writing FU or my name in graffiti over some mom and pop store, they're going to treat me different than what I would get arrested for. And they obviously have Google, they can see what you've been doing, and they see it's not malicious. So I think they do treat you differently because of that.
Okay. Is doing this virtually really as satisfying as doing it in real life? Have you done this in other cities? And if so, which one is your favorite? Well, so that's 2 questions technically.
Well, yeah, I suppose I touched on the fact that I did the Bond Street for Sean Connery. So that's the only one that I did in another city. But the thing is, as I say, the idea, the only slight difference is that you feel like you are tricking somebody because they can't prove whether it's true or not. But then, isn't that the basis for all religion? You don't know if it's true or not. But actually, the idea that it's true is much more rewarding than somebody proving that it's false. I've had ones that weren't true, and somebody said, "Oh, that's Photoshop," and 10 people have just replied saying, "Oh, you're just a miserable git. Just get over it. Like, you just think you're a smart ass, whatever. Just enjoy it." So yeah, of course, it would be great to do every single one in real life. But firstly, it's a risk for me. Second, some of it, as I pointed out, would be more damage. It gives more work to the MTA or whoever's got to fix it or whatever. So actually, I do feel that because I've got such a mix, I've got so many that I've actually physically done, nobody believes that any are fake. Or I put little clues in there, like I say, that poster, where people know, which is like another reward for being, visual.
Right. Okay. I mean, what is the ultimate goal of your street work? What do you want people to get from it?
Well, this is the funny thing. I never, if I, whatever, years ago that I started doing that, said, this is the goal, I couldn't have manipulated how it went to be this goal that it is now. The goal that's so satisfying for me that somebody said, oh, you've created a whole new way for people to memorialize and remember people, which, that's super incredible to think that if you remember like Princess Diana or whatever, there was those giant fields of flowers and candles and remembrance books. And I'm not doing any of that down, vigils, etc. But to come up with an idea that is a memorial. And the interesting thing is, like a memorial, like a war memorial, nobody cares who designed the statue on a war memorial. There's no secondary art trade in old war memorial statues. Like, people don't want to buy them. It's weird because it sort of transcends art and graphics. If you go and see, well, I don't know. I guess Milton Glaser has a memorial stone, right? Maybe.
I would think so. I'm not actually sure.
So when people go to that or go to Basquiat, I know Basquiat definitely has.
He's in the Greenwood Cemetery.
Right. So if you go to Basquiat's and see his tombstone, nobody cares who designed the graphics on that or what stone cutter cut it. It's nothing to do with them. So I feel it's nice because you are detached from, you give something to people where they get a lot of enjoyment and warmth. And certainly in terms of the internet, it's a way of sharing something where it's like, okay, well, here's a picture of a candle with "I love you, David," or they'll do their own illustration and post that. But this is a really nice thing to say, oh, we can just share this, and it's got, it's not even irreverence. It's got some kind of like warmth to it. And it's some different way of sharing something. So I would never, obviously top trending on Facebook, whatever that meant, apart from being above a sloth, I never thought I would get to this point. And certainly, having Bowie's account, Iman has posted my stuff as well. Having Bowie, even if it's his posthumous account and being used for those things, it's just like, it's so flattering because he was such an amazing person. So yeah, that to me is, there was never anything of, oh yeah, I'll become the person for people who died, or I'll be the person who does these street signs or whatever. And as I say, I don't want to be the cliche person that, oh yeah, there's Adrian again, somebody died and he's going to stick out, because it would get a bit boring. So like the crosswalk things and changing the crosswalk thing into a name, to me is more interesting to progress and do different things than this be my legacy that, okay, he's the street sign subway guy. Does that make sense?
Oh, sorry. Yes, it definitely makes sense. I think anyway, a lot of your work is very well set for New York, because even though we all live very separate lives, it's very possible to be alone in New York. We all have this communal space. And so when someone like Aretha Franklin dies, it's a big blow to everyone. And because we all pass through the subway and all see that same tribute, it's a way of kind of converging together without actually physically doing it. And personally, that's why I think it's really brilliant.
Yeah, and I don't know, it was just something that I stumbled on, as I say, from a pun from my brother saying, oh, they should call us David Bowery. And, we all see these street names everywhere where it'll be, Donald Smith Way or something. And you're like, I have no idea who Donald Smith was. People have those actual permanent tribute signs all over the place. So obviously, I'm certainly not the first person to do this. There's definitely people that have played around with furniture on the street, street furniture as in signage, etc. I've not got a monopoly, or wasn't the first to do this. And again, being a photographer, like if I shoot something that I've done on the street, I will try and get a yellow cab in the background. Because one thing about being in New York is the more things, like I showed about the Trump gone thing, the more things that you can tie it to New York. People want New York to be this crazy, right? So it's kind of it's like Vegas known for gambling. New York's meant to be okay. People are doing crazy stuff there, and this is funny, and this is whatever, and it's anything in New York is iconic already because it's in New York, isn't it? So yeah, it's sad because if I was still in Manchester and did all this stuff, it wouldn't go as viral. It wouldn't be as, and by as viral, I don't mean, oh yeah, I got lots of likes. If I got like literally 0.001 cent for the number of likes that this work has got, I mean, you saw some of those things. It's literally tens of millions of likes that it's generated. It's generated all this stuff for social media. What the hell? I got nothing out of that at all. But what that shows you is you made like 10 million people happy and smile, like, and go, oh, that's cool, like that's funny. And as I say, the best compliment is, wow, that's the kind of thing I would have done. But you didn't. So actually, if you do it, this is how much pleasure you'll get. So encouraging other people. One of my favorite murals I did in New York, I was up there for quite a while, said, you're here, now what? Which is whether you're on the planet, you're in New York or whatever, life is turning, even before the pandemic, life is turning more into a spectator sport where people will post me next to a Warhol or me, this is what I've done, this is me eating a donut somebody else has made or whatever. It's a special new cronut. Well, make your own cronut. Do something like you've all got talents in particular areas that try and do something that adds to the world that isn't just like a documentation of the world around you. Because the more that happens, the less creativity there is.
Right. Oh, now we're at 2:00, so I'm afraid we're going to have to wind that up. But thank you so much, Adrian. That was terrific, and thanks to everyone who tuned in today.
And NYPD, please come on, be nice. I know you're trying to clamp down and everything, but you got me a couple of times. Is it going to benefit you? And the real reason why I came out because of the Ruth thing was obviously if the governor's posted it, and I thought if I get arrested, I'm going to the Supreme Court over this because I'm going to get let off. So yeah, as I say, you can do this stuff without being it's technically vandalism, but it's not done. There's very few of my pieces that cause permanent damage or a lot of money to replace.
Right. That's not the intention. Yeah, it's done with a much kinder heart, I think.
So.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Adrian. And thank you, everybody, for joining us.
And thanks for inviting me. And join the Typographers Club, because it is amazing. And don't believe, see, if they invite me to join it, it's not going to be all these geeks and obsessive OCD people saying that, your D isn't round enough, or this should have like a drop shadow in a different angle or whatever. And graffiti, some of the graffiti stuff and the writers and what they're doing now, there's people doing fire extinguisher words that are filled in with 24-foot high rollers that I don't even know how they did this stuff. So graffiti, I don't know how many talks you've done about typography and graffiti, but these are two worlds which need to appreciate each other totally. And not historic stuff, trains and all that. Things are even progressing now, where people are doing really exciting things with typography. And, I'm one of those, but there's people that are way more skilled than I am typographically.
All right. Thank you very much. And thank you, everybody out there for joining us. All right. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.